Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava. Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I wanted to read today from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, text number 17. Is anyone any way that you can follow the text? I just read the text. I just read the text. Yeah. So because I agreed with Emma we should speak about consciousness, which is a huge topic, and this verse is directly speaking about consciousness. Of course, we're in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna starts his instructions to Arjuna, and this is what he's talking about. He talks about consciousness. That is the first thing that he talks about, because that is the basis of all other understanding, of all other philosophy, to start with consciousness. So text number 17 goes like this. The Sanskrit is Avinashitu tat vidi yena sarvam idam tatam vinashyam avyasya sya nakaschit kartum arhati. Translation is that which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Purport. This verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. Anyone can understand what is spread all over the body. It is consciousness. Everyone is conscious of the pains and pleasures of the body in part or as a whole. This spreading of consciousness is limited within one's own body. The pains and pleasures of one body are unknown to another. Therefore, each and every body is the embodiment of an individual soul, and the symptom of the soul's presence is perceived as individual consciousness. This soul is described as 1/10,000th part of the upper portion of the hair point in size. The Svitasvatara Upanishad 5.9 confirms this. Balagraha Sadabhaga Shya Shatada Kalpitasya Cha Bhago Jiva Savikya Satyananchaya Kalpate. When the upper point of a hair is divided into 100 parts, and again each of such parts is further divided into 100 parts, each such part is a measurement of the dimension of the spirit soul. Similarly, the same version is stated. Kesha gra sadabhaga sya satangsha sadishatmakaha diva suksma svarupoyam sangyati hichitkanaha. There are innumerable particles of spiritual atoms which are measured as 1/10,000th of the upper portion of the hair. Therefore, the individual particle of spirit soul is a spiritual atom, smaller than the material atoms, and such atoms are innumerable. This very small spiritual spark is the basic principle of the material body, and the influence of such a spiritual spark is spread all over the body as the influence of the active principle of some medicine spreads throughout the body. This current of the spirit soul is felt all over the body as consciousness, and that is the proof of the presence of the soul. Any layman can understand that the material body minus consciousness is a dead body, and this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of material administration. Therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but to the spirit soul. In the Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.9, the measurement of the atomic spirit soul is further explained. Esho nu atmatitasa vidithabyo yasmin prana panchada samvivesha pranais titam sarvam otam prodyanang yasmin vishuddhe vibhavachesa atma. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. This atomic soul is floating in the 5 kinds of air, prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana, is situated within the heart and spreads its influence all over the body of the embodied living entities. When the soul is purified from the contamination of the 5 kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. The Hatha Yoga system is meant for controlling the 5 kinds of air encircling the pure soul by different kinds of sitting postures, not for any material profit, but for liberation of the minute soul from the entanglement of the material atmosphere. So the constitution of the atomic soul is admitted in all Vedic literatures, and it is also actually felt in the practical experience of any sane man. Only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as all-pervading Vishnu Tattva. The influence of the atomic soul can be spread all over a particular body. According to the Mundaka Upanishad, this atomic soul is situated in the heart of every living entity, and because the measurement of the atomic soul is beyond the power of appreciation of the material scientists, some of them assert foolishly that there is no soul. The individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart along with the supersoul, and thus all the energies of bodily movement are emanating from this part of the body. The corpuscles which carry the oxygen from the lungs gather energy from the soul. When the soul passes away from this position, the activity of the blood-generating fusion ceases. Medical science accepts the importance of the red corpuscles, but it cannot ascertain that the source of the energy is the soul. Medical science, however, does admit that the heart is the seat of all energies of the body. Such atomic particles of the spirit whole are compared to the sunshine molecules. In the sunshine there are innumerable radiant molecules. Similarly, the fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord are atomic sparks of the rays of the Supreme Lord, called by the name Prabha, or superior energy. So whether one follows Vedic knowledge or modern science, one cannot deny the existence of the spirit soul in the body, and the science of the soul is explicitly described in the Bhagavad Gita by the personality of a Godhead himself. Avinasi tu tat vidiyena sarvam idam tatam vinashyam aviyasya shana kastit katum arhati. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. So, understanding consciousness, like, is it okay like this? Or?
Yeah, very close, because, our hearing is...
Okay.
It's
okay. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll try. So, consciousness is actually the basis of everything, of all knowledge. And I remember Sohoto Swami, he made an interesting point many years ago in a lecture about consciousness. That if you go to a dictionary and you look up consciousness, and then of course all the words, they are explained there. So then probably you can find that when it says consciousness, it is explained as awareness. Then you will go and look up awareness, and how is that explained? Consciousness. It's actually very, very difficult to find a clear definition of what actually is consciousness, aside from it's referring to itself. But that's not a contradiction, actually, because we have to start somewhere. Knowledge does start somewhere, and the obvious place to start with knowledge is consciousness. That is the basis. We actually are aware that we are conscious. If we are aware at all, there are those who will say there's no consciousness and there's no self, or sometimes you hear that, or there's nothing particularly mystical about consciousness that needs to be explained. I mean, it's not true. I mean, if you have scientists like that, they admit that actually consciousness is one of the biggest unsolved mysteries of modern science. They don't know what consciousness is. Of course, they are assuming that consciousness is some interaction amongst material elements, some processes in the brain and so on, but they have no idea what actually causes the phenomenon of consciousness. And it's also contradictory, because when it comes down to it, consciousness is our most immediate experience. We can all positively feel that I exist, I'm conscious, and everything else is just based on consciousness. Matter, when it comes down to it, what can we say about matter? We can say it's something that we are conscious of. That means consciousness, having conscious experience is the first, and then we are conscious about other things, such as matter. So our knowledge of matter presupposes consciousness, which is actually a proof that consciousness is more real, matter is a secondary reality. And it's interesting that if you speak modern science, I don't know if that's interesting to speak about modern science, because it's empiricism, it's naturally imperfect, but sometimes they get glimpses of insights, not complete, but there's glimpses of insight. So modern science were started by a few individuals back in the 1500s, 1600s. So one of them was the French philosopher Descartes, René Descartes, and he broke with tradition because up until then knowledge was based mainly on Greek philosophy. It was based on Aristotle, and tradition. Knowledge was handed over. Tradition was generally said that the philosopher has said, and you find that very much in the medieval philosophical writing. The philosopher says such on theology, the philosopher. And you might wonder, do you know that it just says the philosopher? What does that mean? Well, actually, that's Aristotle. He was the philosopher. You don't even have to mention his name. He was a philosopher. Everything was based on his philosophy and his writings. But there were inaccuracies in his philosophy. For example, it's a little humorous example. He wrote one place that women have less teeth than men. Yeah, I don't know how many teeth do we have in our mouth, all of us. I don't know. I didn't count lately. But men and women have the same amount of teeth, and actually, Aristotle could have. And I think he's supposed to have had two wives. You just ask one of them, could you please open your mouth? And you discover that men and women have the same amount of teeth. Anyway, so there was some dissatisfaction with Aristotle's because it means they start discovering that it's not perfect knowledge. So Descartes he started on a different journey of knowledge, you can say. He said he wanted to break with tradition and then actually come to the point of basing a system of philosophy of something that you can know for certain. And the way he did it was by doubting. He was a doubter. He put the question, let me see, by doubting, how far do I get? Will I come to something that ultimately I cannot doubt, that is for certain? That was his, by doubting what, anything that's left that cannot be doubted. Well, that should be the basis of my system of philosophy. So, Hare Krishna. So, of course, you find it's, in one sense, to put it simply, you can doubt everything, practically. You can doubt, of course, what you've heard and learned. How do we know that is true? You can doubt that. What we perceive with our senses, our direct perception, pratyaksha is a Sanskrit word. We know that that is very imperfect. These senses are cheating us. What we see, what we hear, what we feel, and so on doesn't give us perfect knowledge. Our mental faculties, our intelligence and logic and so on, doesn't give us perfect knowledge. That can definitely be doubted. So he was doubting like that. Then finally he came to one point, actually, where he stopped and found actually that this is beyond doubt. And what he came to is that, I can doubt everything, but I cannot doubt that I'm doubting. That is, because that's self-contradictory. I'm definitely doubting, that's for certain. And therefore I exist. And that's actually, you know this famous cogito ergo sum. You've heard that, no? You've heard it? Cogito ergo sum. It's Latin.
No, I never heard.
No, you didn't study Latin. No. Okay. You know that? Haven't heard it? Okay. Anyway, it's kind of famous, and it's translated as "I think, therefore I am."
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, but it's a mistranslation. Actually, the real argument is I doubt, therefore I exist. That's therefore I exist. So I cannot doubt that I exist, because the fact that I'm doubting proves I exist. So I can be sure I exist. So you can down to actually the self, the I, is real, and everything else is relative and can be doubted. And modern science started with that, actually, with a dualism between the knower, the self, and matter. And he believed in reincarnation and all that. But that somehow or other, modern science, they just got absorbed in studying matter and forgot to study the self. So they forgot about the self. But actually, that's, he concluded that the self is there, and that we know for certain. And next step he took also was, and therefore God exists. And actually, you can make that logical conclusion. It takes a little step, but you can logically conclude from the self exists, therefore God also does exist. That I exist is what that we can know for sure, and exist means, of course, I'm a conscious being, conscious me, and everything else is relative. There was a. It's interesting also in the 20th century among scientists, quantum physicists, they also got into consciousness studies because they discovered that consciousness is part of a system, of a physical system. You cannot exclude consciousness, and conscious observers have affecting the reactions in a closed physical system. And one of these famous quantum physicist, whose name was Eugene Wigner, he once stated actually that he can see two forms of reality, matter and consciousness. And he says, of the two, consciousness is more real, matter is relative. Matter is just something that we are conscious of. So those who think that matter is first and consciousness comes after, they got completely mixed up, and they haven't done any really introspection. Because if you're introspective, then you actually realize, of course, I'm conscious consciousness is the first, and then everything is relative from there. That's the difference. I had someone on the street a while ago who had been to India and something, and he told me, I thought that made sense also, that the difference between the East and the West is that you in the West you observe the world and study the world and categorize the world, and then on basis of that you try to understand yourself. But the East is the opposite one. You start by studying yourself, and then when you study yourself, then you try to understand the world on the basis of studying yourself. I thought that was nicely put, and that's what we see here in Krishna. He talks about the very basis we all can agree on. Consciousness pervades our entire body. I'm conscious. I'm the conscious being. That I cannot. That's 100% for certain. And my consciousness pervades this body. It's in a different place in the Bhagavad Gita in the 13th chapter. It said actually like the sun is illuminating the entire solar system with its rays. Similarly, the self, the conscious self, is there in the heart and is illuminating the whole body with consciousness. So, although it's very hard to define, because consciousness is not a product of something else. If actually you cannot define it, explain it in terms of anything else except that is self-referential. But it's also self-evident. Consciousness is self-evidence. And you have to start with something that is self-evident. So that I am is self-evident. We cannot question that. We not doubt that. It's very mystical that we exist, but we cannot question it. We do exist, and from there, one can then realize that the reality is actually ultimately just consciousness. Consciousness is the origin, is the original cause of everything, and everything else is a product of consciousness. Not my consciousness, obviously. My consciousness can be caught. Can my consciousness be the cause of something? Well, very minute at least, because it's, that's also one of the things we very quickly should realize, that we're very tiny, we're very small. Prabhupada talks in the verse, we are the size of the 10,000 part of the tip of a hair. So that's very, not microscopic, it's nanoscopic. How many angstrom are we down at? Very tiny, tinier than smaller than an atom. That's a soul, the self. So we're very tiny, and it should be obvious that we are very tiny, because everything in this world goes on without me controlling it. We are not in control of very much. We're not even in control of our body or our senses, and not even our mind and intelligence and so on. Things are going on without me being controlled. So obviously, I'm not everything. I'm not the complete consciousness, but there must be a consciousness behind everything, because I'm a conscious being, and I'm part of a greater whole. I'm a part of a greater whole. I'm part of that which everything has come from. And since I'm conscious, I'm a conscious being, that which I'm part of must be a conscious being, because otherwise I wouldn't be a conscious being. That's very basic Vedanta logic about the part and the whole. You have the part, and the qualities found in the part, they must also be in the whole. Prabhupada would always give the example of a drop and the ocean, drop of water and the ocean, so you can chemically analyze a drop of water and find it contains minerals, it contains salt. So then you justify to conclude the ocean contains salt, because otherwise a drop would not contain salt. So similarly, we can analyze ourselves and find that we are conscious, and that consciousness cannot be reduced to anything else. It is fundamental. Therefore, the cause of everything is a conscious being. The logic follows very immediate logic, and that's actually this is the basis of everything else that of realization of Krishna conscious philosophy. There is a fantastic purport also in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 2:2, second canto, second chapter, text 35, where Shukadeva Goswami actually says that the presence of the super soul, the Lord is seated in our hearts, and from him come knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita, Savasya Chaham Hridasana Vishnu Mata Smriti Gyanam Apohanam Cha, that I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So this verse in the Bhagavatam says, Bhagavan Sababhuti Shu. I forgot the rest of the Sanskrit. But it says that the Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of God, it is within all living beings. And this fact can be perceived by use of intelligence and by analyzing our activities of seeing and hearing and so on. And I don't know if are you reading the Bhagavatam regularly? Yes. So you're familiar with this. There's a fantastic purport by Prabhupada. Prabhupada has written a really fantastic purport where he just goes through step by logical step that where first he brings us to the point to realize that actually we're different from matter, we're different from the body, we are conscious beings. Then he goes on, and at the end of the purport, one is actually has realized, and one can perceive and even sense the super soul. Who knows this verse and purport? Adapur, you must.
Second canto?
Second canto, second chapter, text 35. Yeah.
2:35.
Yeah, the chapter is called The Lord in the Heart. And that verse and Prabhupada's purport is kind of really the culmination of that. You really, after you read that, then you can see and perceive the super soul. Of course, then Prabhupada continues after giving that realization. Now, it's our choice if we want to continue to have that realization, or we again want to revert to the illusory conception where we identify with matter and forget about the super soul. So, and then I generally always choose to identify with matter and forget about the super soul. So I have, but whenever I read this, then I have a few minutes of, actually Krishna conscious realization like that, and then I want to be in Maya again. That's another point. But it's a fantastic purport. It's absolutely fantastic purport. And Prabhupada there, he first of all brings one to the point where we realize that we are different from the body. There is me, the conscious self, and then there is natural energy. I think Prabhupada uses that expression, natural energy, matter, and that is just energy that is just being supplied in form of, we have our 10 senses, which are the sense of sight, taste, smell, hearing, and touch, and our active senses of hands, legs, mouth in terms of speaking, and genitals and anus. And these are our 5 senses of action, and then the 5 knowledge-acquiring senses. So we have 10 senses in all. Plus, we have the mind. We have the mind. We have mind, intelligence, and the sense of ego. And we are all different from that. And they are all being supplied to us. It's not, we're not in control of our senses and mind as such. And of course, and then through the senses we interact with a greater world, and also we're not in control of that. But we are nevertheless we're not in control, completely out of control with that. But still, it's that it is being controlled. We see that actually it is being controlled. Our senses are controlled, and also controlled to act according to our desire. We see, I mean, we're not in control of our senses and mind, but because I don't know how the body works. I don't know, I'm speaking, I have no idea, vocal cords and sounds and like that. How does it work? And when I lift my arms and like that, I have no idea how it works. It works, and it's synchronized with my desires, but I don't know how it works. It's quite mystical. But you see that it is being controlled. Someone is controlling it. That's the super soul. Super soul is there controlling. And intelligence. Intelligence is being given to us. From moment to moment we begin intelligence. And Prabhupada says this, the intelligence is actually the form direction of the super soul. The form direction of the super soul. It's from moment to moment the super soul is there and is giving on us practical direction. What is the next step? What is the next word? What is the next action? Like that, in accordance with our desires, but it's being given constantly. We're not in control of it. We see that sometimes intelligence is not there. It's withdrawn, and we're not in control of it. But when we are normally healthy and so on, then intelligence is being supplied and the body works and so on. We don't know, but it's completely synchronized with our desires. So such a synchronization, that means it can only happen by control, isn't it? I mean, things don't synchronize automatically, and of course they don't synchronize by chance. It takes conscious persons to synchronize. So that our desires and our will and willpower and then the body acts and intelligence is acting like that. That is a super soul. So become conscious of that, and actually see the super soul is there from moment to moment to moment, constantly, guiding us and so on. And so that realization is available by simply, you can say, introspection and so on. Then of course, Prabhupada goes on and in that purport and says, but of course, then if you turn to the Vedic information that is given, then one learns that the super soul is simply a part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Is an expansion or a partial expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because super soul is not the Supreme Lord in that sense. The Lord is not. Well, he's not different from the Lord. Is the Lord Himself in full, but it's not His full personality is not manifested there, because the Supreme Lord is not. The only thing he's doing more than simply just being the order suppliers of small individual souls like us. Super soul is actually our order supplier, our servant, and the Supreme Lord is. I mean, his activities cannot be limited to that. He is Purushottama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's engaged in his own activities and own pastimes and own enjoyment. And in the natural condition, of course, the self, the individual souls, they are in. It's not that the Lord is serving them, but they are serving constantly the Lord, like limbs of a body are constantly serving the whole body. That is a natural constitution. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that of course that knowledge cannot be given. You cannot reach that simply by logic. That has to be revealed, as is revealed in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Vedic writings in general, and in the Srimad Bhagavatam and so on. And the identity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, actually, that is Krishna himself. That is revealed in the Vedic knowledge. That's the only way to get that knowledge. But the realization of us as conscious beings and as a super consciousness and His presence, that can be realized by use of intelligence, by introspection, and also by the mercy of the Lord. It's really the mercy of the Lord. By purity, it takes. If one has to be also to have this realization and to have it as a fixed realization, one has to exist in the mode of goodness. If we are in mode of passion, mode of ignorance, if we are filled with desires and so on, that realization is not possible. Logic alone is not enough, but one has to be situated in sattva guna, in the mode of goodness. But that realization, first realization before just being given knowledge, then one has to be disciplined and live a regulated life, so one lives in the mode of goodness, and then one can have realizations of consciousness, super consciousness, Krishna consciousness. These are all stages. Ultimately, the ultimate consciousness is Krishna consciousness. All consciousness is Krishna's consciousness. That's one way of looking at consciousness. And the normal state for the pure souls, they are fully Krishna conscious and see themselves as part of Krishna, and their constant function is simply to render service to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's how the pure soul identifies. We identify with matter. When we are under illusion, we identify with matter and the forms of matter, both subtle matter and gross matter. But that's an illusory identification. The real identification is that I'm a tiny part of Krishna. I'm meant to render service to Krishna, who is the supreme whole. And this is, of course, what Arjuna is being brought to. Krishna is bringing Arjuna to this point and acting, afterwards acting in that consciousness, because it's consciousness is also, we see that from Gita, active, not just pensive, passive, observing. Consciousness is very active. Arjuna is being brought to act, and it takes some time for him to come to that point. You will see that both in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita and in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is still confused. Should I act or should I not act? Krishna is telling Krishna that you're telling me to act, but then you're telling me to simply be situated in knowledge. So, should I act or should I not act? Kindly tell me. This the 3rd chapter. That's a question. 3rd chapter, and he repeats the same question in the 5th chapter again. He's still confused about that. And but Krishna says that now you've come to knowledge. Now you act. acting, realize self means that you are conscious, realize yourself as an eternal conscious being, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and consciousness means you are active. Conscious being has always desires and feelings and so on, and wants to act, and we cannot be. That's also a very important characteristic of consciousness given in Bhagavad Gita. Nahi kaskit kshanam apudhyatu tishtya chakama krit kayate hyavasa kama sava prakritiya jaya gunai. One cannot refrain from acting, not even for a moment. In conditioned life, then we act according to how we are conditioned by the three modes of material nature. But it's not that the material world causes us to be active. We are always active by nature, and we can never be inactive even for a moment. So, be a self-realized, conscious being means actually also to realize what does it mean to be active, as a complete conscious being. Just realize, Prabhupada makes that point in the 9th chapter also about the most secret knowledge. This is the most confidential knowledge. So, and he writes about that, confidential knowledge is, just confidential knowledge is to understand that we are pure conscious being and different from the body and so on. But the most confidential knowledge is to understand how we act as conscious beings, how we are active. Because it's not that matter causes us to be active. Matter is just our body and our minds. Actually, they're covering of the pure soul. They're actually heavy burdens. We're dragging these bodies along with us. Still, be active. So then, when we don't have the burden anymore to drag around, does that mean then we're not active? No, then we can really be active. Then we're not bogged down by this lump that we are placed in right now. So when the soul is freed from the body, then the soul becomes so active, and that's a real confidential knowledge. And it comes down to basic is to understand we are Krishna's eternal servants, all the time conscious, eternal conscious being who are Krishna's eternal servants, and how we should act for Krishna, and how we should be instruments for Krishna. This is the real essence of confidential knowledge. Krishna tells Arjuna, "You be my instrument." How does the Sanskrit start? Utista tam yashoda basma tasmat. It's a little chapter. Where Krishna tells Arjuna, "Just be my instrument. You cannot be an instrument in the fight for me." And that's what it means. That's the highest perfection. Simply to be an instrument in Krishna's hands, to be dictated by Krishna from moment to moment, how to act, being dictated and inspired, and have all our desires simply directed towards, I want to do what Krishna wants me to do. When we have separate desires, then actually it is kind of limited what we've been provided of intelligence and energy and so on. This is actually, it's based on our karma. We get so much and not more. But when it's no longer my desires, my separate desires, but it is simply I desire what Krishna desires, then Krishna will give can give unlimited energy and intelligence and so on. It's not limited by our karma. And that will actually give us, that is a perfection. That will give us, as Bhagavatam says, it will give us unprecedented happiness. That's a spiritual world. There's a nice description when the Kumaras, they reach the spiritual world. It's in the 3rd canto of the Bhagavatam. The Kumaras, the 4 Kumaras come to the spiritual world, and there they meet Jai and Vijay, and the cursed Jai and Vijay will become Hiranyakashipu and his whole pastime. But there's a chapter called Description of the Kingdom of God. And there's a glimpse into the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha world. So the Kumaras, when they first enter the spiritual world, they experience unprecedented happiness. They experience happiness on a level that has not been experienced, that's not possible to experience in the material world. And that's actually, but spiritual world means also one state of consciousness, a complete pure devotee who is just in complete harmony with Krishna and Krishna's desire and acting upon that. It's already in the spiritual world. There you will experience unprecedented happiness that we have not experienced here in this world. And that we see also, I mean, it does work. I mean, we are in touch with Krishna consciousness. We're not pure unalloyed devotees, so I speak for myself. I cannot speak for any of you. But most who come to this Krishna consciousness movement are conditioned souls who are not pure unalloyed devotees. Please notice Prabhupada, he has two terms. He talks about pure devotees and he talks about pure unalloyed devotees. You notice that these two terms? It's interesting. I mean, that I think the difference is obvious. Like one time, Prabhupada was asked, how many pure devotees are there in the world? And Prabhupada said, but how many members are there in this movement? That's how many pure devotees are in this world. Prabhupada saw that all his devotees as pure devotees because they wanted to be Krishna conscious, serious. They were serious about becoming Krishna conscious. That was their serious goal of life. That's a pure devotee. But we also know that they are, still on that level, there are still material attachments, material contaminations, and that we have to work with and get purified, and we can be dragged down and deviate and so on. So, but that's one way of using the pure devotee. But pure unalloyed devotee means there's no material contaminations or attachments or anything. It's just it is pure all the way. Like unalloyed it's a term from what's called metallurgy. You have gold that is unalloyed. That's 100% gold. It's not just an object that is covered by gold. So that's also possible. You have an object. It's golden, means it's covered by gold, but inside it's a regular metal. Unalloyed is 100% pure, nothing but gold. So unalloyed pure devotee means also there's nothing but that. But even though we are not on the level of unalloyed pure, an unalloyed pure devotee will experience it's like the spiritual world, and we are in the spiritual world. Actually, there's no material world. This is a spiritual world also, just a particular part of the spiritual world we're in, covered by where the three modes of material nature are acting. But it is still the spiritual world, but we cannot perceive it. But pure unalloyed devotees, they perceive it. But even us who are just get a little in touch with Krishna consciousness, actually we also experience unprecedented happiness. That was my first experience with getting in touch with Krishna consciousness and devotees and so on. Actually I experienced a happiness that I have never experienced before. I mean, it was just to be with devotees and engage in service and chanting and like that. I became very, very happy, and I never had experienced such a happiness before. It wasn't pure happiness, I mean, because I was, also struggling with in many other ways like that. But there was definitely a taste of a happiness, and that happiness, that's of course just a glimpse of a glimpse of what real happiness is in spiritual world and pure spiritual consciousness. But it is this is what everyone is looking for as pure souls. We really want to be, you can say also, why should we be Krishna conscious? Because we should be happy. And that's the only way we can be happy. We connect with the supreme consciousness, with the supreme personality of Godhead. as his complete surrendered servants. How long should I speak? I'm over time.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. We have time. No, nothing. Yeah.
What's the time now?
Everyone it is okay.
4:30.
Comfortable.
4:30?
Yeah, yeah.
I was told to. So yeah. Any comments, questions, time for that, or objections?
Oh, I can ask one.
Yeah.
What's the number one task of a soul that needs to be done in order to feel conscious?
In order to feel,
To stay conscious or to approach consciousness.
oh, what is the number one duty?
Yeah.
Well, just to be conscious, you actually have to live in the mode of sattva, in mode of goodness. You know, sattva guna, yeah. Which is I mean, that's a mode of knowledge. You cannot have knowledge unless you actually are in sattva guna. So you have to get out of passion and ignorance. Which is why when you know, the first practice of Krishna consciousness is actually is discipline and follow 4 regulated principles. No eating of meat, fish, and eggs. No intoxication. No illicit sex. No gambling. Following that actually brings you more or less to mode of goodness, and and start having a practice, regulated life, and in that, with that as a foundation, then you can practice Krishna consciousness steadily, and you get it. Of course, you follow a discipline, 16 rounds every day, like that. Are you following that? Or are you trying to come to that, or you're following that? So. The foundation of the mode of goodness, from there one practices Krishna consciousness, regulated Krishna consciousness, not just when one feels like it, but regulated means, so many rounds, and particular worship and so on. Regulated, disciplined. If one is not disciplined, then one will get covered over again, because we're not on the level of spontaneous Krishna consciousness. Does that make sense?
It's a lot of things.
You just want one thing.
Ideally.
Of course, you chant. I mean, in one sense, what do we start with someone to make them conscious? Chanting? No, definitely. Chanting is you should chant Hare Krishna. So, Madam Puri, what would you answer?
Well, it came to mind a description given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that all the jivas are conscious to some degree or other, but many jivas are basically next to unconscious, which, mountains, and you have the plants, and we call it non-movable living beings. They have very, very little consciousness. And then comes the movable ones, which are, like reptiles and insects and aquatics and the 4-legged animals, birds. And then comes the human being, which is like the others that he called they're practically unconscious or budding, just like a bud. And then you have blooming consciousness, they're just coming out. And then you have the human beings have the chance to become fully conscious. And like you said, it's only when you become regulated, you start following principles of Vaidhi, and you become almost fully conscious. And Vaidhi turns into spontaneous attraction to Bhakti, you are more and more conscious about Krishna all the time, and finally, by the mercy of the Lord, you can develop pure love, like like the gopis of Vrindavan. You cannot be more Krishna conscious than that. Just like in levels. And you were describing probably it's a trajectory. If you become regulated, that's basically the first condition to raise above the animal stage of consciousness, because they're also eating and sleeping and multiplying and fighting, just like So become regulated, go to goodness, start chanting Hare Krishna, then you can really start feeling that you're conscious, just like you said.
All beings are conscious, and all human beings are conscious.
Or more conscious.
Yeah, but those who are higher, they are conscious that they're conscious. That you have to come to the level where actually you're conscious of your own consciousness.
Yeah, right.
Most are not conscious of that. They're out in the senses, out in the external world. But so you can say the awakening of consciousness, as we're talking about, that's about you become conscious that you are conscious. It is described also in the Bhagavad Gita, in the purport. Prabhupada talks about these are levels of consciousness: Anamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Jnanamaya, and Vijnanamaya. I don't know if are you familiar with that? Prabhupada has said it, for example, in the 13th chapter, he talks about that. So these are levels of consciousness that we find amongst humans. On the lowest level, and animals on that level also, they're simply conscious of eating. Eating and feeding their senses. Then pranamaya, one becomes conscious of life symptoms, not only one's own, but also that there are beings who are active and moving and like that. There are other beings. Pranamaya. Manomaya means then one becomes conscious of mental activities. Where there's mental activities with feelings and also even art and mental concepts and so on. Jnanamaya, then one realizes that actually the self is different from the mind and the body, and that's where you can say that being conscious or being conscious, that starts from Jnanamaya. Vijnanamaya. And you have Jnanamaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. Jnanamaya is kind of theoretical. Vijnana is realized, and you're established in being a conscious being and different from the body. Anandamaya is a state of conscious happiness, where happiness comes, and that's only from connecting with the Supreme. That comes from Krishna is 100% in Anandamaya, and we become situated in Anandamaya when we connect with Supreme Anandamaya. So that's described there also in it's 13th chapter, isn't it? You can look it up.
I have actually another question coming from the first one.
Yeah.
How can one stay fully conscious if he or she needs to surrender to the spiritual master? Surrender means like trust fully. When you just because if you trust someone, it's just trust. It's not proven. How can you be conscious at that step?
Oh, you have to. You're very conscious when you. But you're not a blind follower. You are. It's very conscious when. I mean, when you come in touch with someone like Prabhupada or someone who is representing a pure spiritual master like Prabhupada. What the symptom is that you become extremely conscious through his teachings and by following his teachings, and therefore you deliberately say, I want to follow and surrender to that person. And it is the most conscious choice you make. If you don't do it as a formality, some might just do it as a formality like that. But if it, the actual relationship that you are extremely conscious, this is what I want. I want to be surrendered. Yes, you can say in one sense everything is a matter of trust or faith, but it's not blind. It's also, I guess, also the important role that faith and trust has, and how that pervades everything, is also a symptom of becoming very conscious. We are not. I mean, because often many think that having faith is something, it's blind, but there's faith in everything. Everything you do is faith-based, and those who are most conscious, they of course they have faith based on deep reason and experience, but also courage, and then they act on that. Because you cannot do anything without having faith. I don't know if is that clear? You came here.
I don't know.
You came here.
It's not clear.
Okay. But just take like everyday examples. You work. I don't know if you work.
Something, yeah.
You go to work. Why do you go to work? Because you get paid in the end of the month. That's faith. You don't know if you're being paid, but you have faith. You go to the store and you buy food. You have faith this is food. It might be poison. You have every time you take a step, it's faith-based. You walk out on the street. You don't know before you put your next step on the street, on the sidewalk. Maybe when you put your foot and your weight will cause that a big hole will open and you disappear down in the ground and you're shipped off to some white slavery or something. You don't know. But you have faith. You take a step. Then when actually you put your foot and you actually feel the ground is solid, then you get realization. You cannot have a realization that this is actually solid ground before you actually take a leap of faith. Have you heard that expression? A leap of faith. You take the leap of faith, and then when you've taken that, then you get realization. Actually, you are on solid ground. So yes, you have to surrender. You have to surrender to the Supreme, to Krishna. It takes faith to do it, and also we understand that we can surrender to the Supreme, to Krishna, by surrendering to His representative. Well, it does take some faith, but it's not a blind. It's a very conscious, deliberate decision one makes, and then and one takes a step with dependence on Krishna. Ultimately, we don't know what's going. We just act and we depend on Krishna for the result. But then when we have acted, then we actually also afterwards, then we really get experience, realization of Krishna's mercy, and it's real. Is it okay? Or?
Can I say something?
Yes.
I mean, it's very easy, like a 5-year-old kid can understand this.
Yeah.
I mean, we come to Krishna like, like drunks or drug addicts or whatever, and we get these little beads in our hands, and they tell us, chant Hare Krishna. And it really works, for all of us, for the people in Tompkins Square or for the squares in Copenhagen or whatever. I mean, it works, you know, just like that. You don't have to have, you know, to be super intelligent to begin with.
No.
That's how I feel, you know. And then slowly by slowly, you chant the holy name, and it just gets better and better, and you see and you understand more and more, and
Yeah.
you get happy.
Yeah. And you see the examples of others as well.
Yeah.
And Krishna talks about that in the Bankgiro. Vida raga baya krodha man maya mamupasrita bahavo gyanatapasa putamat bhavam agata. Krishna says, many persons in the past being purified from attachment, fear and anger took fully shelter in me. How is it? Being freed from attachment, fear and anger, and being completely absorbed in me. Many persons in the past attained was it pure love for me? Anyway, I can just have to translate. It's 4:10, Bankgiro 4:10. It's a very beautiful verse, and very highly instructive verse. In basic, Krishna says it's not. It has been done before. It's also like if you decide you want to go to university and take a bachelor in something like that. Well, that's also faith. But you see that so many who've gone through this institution, and they come out, they're educated and so on and like that. So I have faith. If I go through that institution, I will also be properly educated. So Krishna is saying here, being freed from attachment, fear and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge on me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. Love of Godhead is our goal. Krishna says there's a process here, and it has been done in the past. It's not that you're not been asked to follow a completely unknown, untried path. It's an old path. It's got, so many have gone through it all the time. Just follow, So that's also a verse for Krishna where he, says, have faith in this. But you don't know, again, if you take...
What is your name?
Ilya.
Ilya, yeah, right. I see him. We have a WhatsApp group.
Okay. Yeah.
If I may say Bhakta Ilya, that's okay. That's what the title would be, Practitioners of Krishna Consciousness. For the past, 5 or 10 times I've been here. Bhakta Ilya has been here. To come steady, more or less every time.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that you said, Prabhu, there is faith, there's Shraddha.
Yeah.
Because people have faith in, you're like a younger, handsome man, you have faith in women, faith in alcohol, faith in money, because we think it's going to bring us happiness. So you be conscious of these things, because you have faith in women, and you're conscious, there's a woman, and there's a, So there are different kinds. I think you come here because you have faith. You're attracted to be here because you get Krishna consciousness. You listen to devotees giving class here, like Lalitanath Prabhu. He gives you Krishna. He makes you Krishna conscious. By looking at the altar, you become Krishna conscious. By singing and hearing the names of Krishna, you become Krishna conscious. And he's all attractive. And it gives you joy. It's not only prasadam. I know you like prasadam, that's why I come too. But you get Krishna from the devotees. And I was just reading, there is no mechanical process by which you get the mercy of Krishna. But there is a self-reliant method, and that is association with devotees. So if you come here every Sunday, you come and listen to a lecture, you get Krishna from them, from the spiritual master, then you become Krishna conscious more and more, and you become more and more satisfied in your heart. And then the next step is you become more and more purified, of course. But when you're with devotees, there is service. You help with the technology. Sometimes you play mridanga, So these are all steps in becoming more and more Krishna conscious, right? And you wouldn't be here unless you had trust.
But not full trust.
No, trust is there.
Yeah, I mean,
Full-
so Shraddha is as you said, the word Shraddha. You know, it's an initial faith. I mean, you come here because you have some faith. That is, I think it's I think.
Maybe I come because I don't have other faith in other things.
Yeah, but I mean, if some, I mean, there's some is this faith doesn't mean absolute conviction or like that, but there's a certain, at least you feel something good is here. There's some. I mean, it's not bad. It's something. I think there's something good and it's interesting, and that is the first Shraddha. Then that can be enhanced and cultivated by associating with those who have more faith. But faith is important, and Prabhupada makes that point. We don't accept blind faith, and we don't advocate blind faith. We actually advocate skepticism and doubt. If one doesn't have doubt, one is not intelligent. Intelligent person will always ask why. Why should I accept this? Why should I follow this? If you don't ask that, then one is not intelligent. So intelligence will bring up doubts, but of course it's one is not a blind. One can have blind faith, and one can also have blind skepticism. Both are there, and neither is. We don't accept any. Nothing should be blind. If one brings up doubts, and actually one is getting satisfying answers that clear the doubt, then one should be able to also give up the doubt and develop more faith. So our previous spiritual masters, they prescribed there's a whole process that one goes through. And first is this initial faith, which is basically just kind of attraction, curiosity, and it seems there's something good here. There's attraction, but there's not a conviction. And then by associating with those who are more practicing seriously and like that, one's faith will increase. One can actually see these people are genuine if they are, and that's of course up to you to judge and assess. Are we genuine? Are we just pretenders or hypocrites or making a show like that? You have to see is this something serious? And are those who are following it, are they serious, and actually are they developing in spiritual consciousness? If one's faith increases to the point and say, actually, well, I have faith in these people, I want to be like that, then one starts practicing and following, like they are, and that's where one has there's regulated life, and there's principles and chanting and so on. It's one's life becomes very regulated, and as a result of that, many unwanted impurities will disappear in one's mind. One will actually be purified from material attachments and confusion and doubts and mental disturbances and so on. And when one has reached a level of actually high level of purity, then one comes to what is called nishta, and that is called fixed faith. Now one is convinced, and and more than just convinced, one is realized. Convinced can be still on the theoretical level, but here one actually has experienced and one has seen, and one can explain it to others as well. So that's a different level of faith. That is unshakable faith. And then from there on, it continues. Then one starts becoming extremely steady in one's practice, and one starts developing a great taste. One starts becoming addicted. And that's, of course, generally addicted is a negative word, but here it's addiction to a positive thing. And then next is one starts becoming extremely attached to Krishna and starts developing love and feeling for him, and then one comes to love of Godhead. And that's actually the whole path is being described. There's a whole process that one goes through like that. Make sense? Somewhat.
Thank you, Prabhu, for wonderful explanation, and it was wonderful. From Avalapuri Prabhu to explain.
Thank you.
In so
Thank you.
beautiful way, and I have it all the time. Different question.
Yeah.
And the time now it is little. Maybe we can take it later too.
Yeah.
Just now you are talking about the faith, and to my mind it was like what it is the fear, the person, it is the disappointment from their life. Why it is so difficult to have the faith in something?
Because you've been disappointed many times, frustrated. You put your faith in someone and they disappointed you. Yeah, and that's we all hurt like that. That's
to go beyond the fear, we need to have some kind of faith that then we can start.
Yeah. And there are some who've gone beyond that. They cannot develop faith anymore. They have, they've gone to the point of frustration that becomes anger, and they're angry with everything. And they cannot. Because they will immediately say, I've seen it all, I've experienced it all, they all, nobody is genuine, everyone is cheating and hypocritical,
Let me say something there. The first text I learned from the Bhagavad Gita gave me great comfort, consolation, exactly for this issue. Why should I trust this? Why should I have faith? That is the Nihabhikrama Nashusti 240, where Krishna tells us this is a big difference to have faith in whatever in the world and to have faith in the bhakti process, like you just begun. Because in the bhakti process has nothing to do with the body, nothing to do with the mind, has to do with the soul. Body and mind, material. Body dies, you get a new one. But you are you, I have been you, I'm going to be you, time immemorial, eternal times. So he says, in this endeavor, coming here every Sunday, doing service, asking questions, hearing, chanting, there is no loss, never. There's no diminution. Prabhupada says in the purport, even a small advancement, like 1%, next life you start from 2%. Everything else you can build skyscrapers, like you Donald Trump or whatever. When you die, the body dies, everything's finished. No money, no skyscrapers, nothing. But whatever you do for the soul is there for time eternity. So Krishna says that can protect you, that will protect you from the most dangerous type of fear. So you don't have to be afraid, because this protects you from the fear by engaging in bhakti yoga, in devotional service. Yeah? Because it's spiritual. It goes directly to you in the heart. It's not like polishing the nails or cutting the hair or whatever. It goes directly to you and it stays with you. Yeah? It never goes away. Right?
We are talking about, and before you, about the level of conscious. For me it was where it is the ending, how many levels of conscious we have, and where we let the body, and it's a lot of things to see it and learn it there.
It's a endeavor.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Krishna.
Thank you. In the good association, we could say something. Jai.
How many thousand you had on Yamashtami, Copenhagen?
I mean, we had no way of counting. We just say 2,000-3,000, but I mean, we don't know.
You used the whole street, the whole